The city of Brackenvine did not sleep so much as it simmered. It was a cauldron of chimneys and steam vents, glass towers and soot-caked alleys, home to inventors who built dream engines and thieves who stole them. But tonight, on the eve of the Unmaking Festival, it felt strangely hollow, as if someone had lifted the city by its foundations and shaken loose all sound. Liora Therin walked with her collar up against the wind, her fingers curled around the silver instrument in her pocket, the Ashen Compass, an heirloom said to point not north, but toward truths one fears to face. Her father had left it behind when he vanished 5 years ago, along with a note, "Follow the needle only when you're ready to see what you already know." She hadn't been ready then. She wasn't sure she was ready now. The bells of the foundry quarter tolled midnight. Liora turned down a narrow lane lit by lanterns that flickered like startled eyes. She was heading to the old observatory, abandoned after the great sundering cracked its dome, because that was where the compass had begun to tremble earlier that evening. As she walked, she felt the compass tug faintly, not in direction, but in pulse. "Not yet," she whispered, trying to steady herself, one step at a time. A thin figure detached itself from the shadows ahead. "You're out late for an archivist," said the stranger, his voice dripping with theatrical mischief. He had a narrow, foxish face and wore a coat stitched with mismatched pockets. "Go bother someone else, Ravel," Liora muttered. "I would, but you look like the only interesting mystery within walking distance. And you still owe me after I saved you from the scrap watch last year." "You saved me by getting me into trouble in the first place." "Technicalities," he said cheerfully. Then his gaze sharpened. "You're carrying something unusual." Her hand tightened around the compass. "Stay out of it." Ravel raised both hands. "Fine, fine, but if you're heading to the observatory, don't go alone. People whisper strange things about it lately. Lights in the ruin, voices at night, machines that shouldn't still run." She paused. Ravel smirked, and the compass pulsed again. "Come if you want, but keep quiet." "Never," he promised, and followed her anyway.
The observatory loomed like a fallen titan. Its great dome, sheared open in the sundering, looked as if a giant had clawed it apart. A cold draught spilled from the wound, carrying the metallic tang of ancient machinery. Liora climbed over a fractured pillar. Ravel followed, quiet for once. Inside, moonlight spread in a pale ellipse, illuminating dust motes drifting like slow fireflies. The great star engine, a twisting mesh of copper rings and crystalline lenses, sat collapsed in the center of the chamber, one of the many casualties of the sundering's chaotic burst of gravitational distortion. "Beautiful," Ravel whispered, in a might fall on our heads and crush us sort of way. Liora knelt beside the star engine, pulling the compass from her pocket. The needle spun once, twice, then froze, pointing not outward, but downward. "Below?" she murmured. Ravel peered at the cracked floor. "There's nothing below except—" "Oh!" He tapped the stone with his boot. A hollow clang answered. Together they cleared rubble, revealing a rusted hatch the size of a wagon wheel. Ravel wedged his tools into the seam. With effort and a long groan of metal, the hatch opened. A stairwell spiraled down into darkness. "After you," Ravel said. Liora summoned a small sphere of archival light, a crystalline orb whose scriptwork glowed gently. Then descended. The stairwell tightened as they went, stone giving way to iron giving way to something stranger, a smooth material that seemed neither metal nor stone, but a blend of both. It thrummed faintly beneath her boots. They reached the bottom. The air was warmer here, carrying the scent of ozone. "Whistle," Ravel whispered. "Now this looks interesting." A chamber stretched out before them, circular, humming, and unmistakably alive with power. On its walls swam luminous glyphs, rearranging themselves like migratory patterns of birds. But the most striking feature was the machine at the center, a tall glass cylinder filled with swirling ash that glimmered faintly like embers. Liora felt her breath hitch. She had seen sketches of this, forbidden sketches. This is impossible. This is a temporal vat, pre-sundering tech. My father, he searched for one. To do what? Make yesterday's mistakes again? No, she said, stepping closer. According to the archives, the ash isn't ordinary. It's memory residue, remnants of moments burned out of time. If stabilized, it could show you something lost, something erased. Your father? Liora pressed her palm against the glass. The ash curled toward her touch like a waking creature. Then the lights in the chamber flickered. The glyphs shifted violently. The ash spiraled upward. A voice whispered from nowhere and everywhere at once. Seek the truth that devours. The compass trembled, and the ash began to coalesce into an image, blurry, shuddering, but unmistakably a person. Liora stumbled back. Father! Gravel grabbed her shoulder. Liora, something's wrong with the glyphs! The image splintered, fracturing into shards of light that whirled around the room like knives. The machine let out a keening, metallic cry. Run! Liora shouted. They sprinted back toward the stairs as the chamber shuddered violently. Sparks rained from the ceiling. A shockwave rippled through the floor, nearly knocking them off their feet. They reached the stairway just as the vat ruptured behind them with an explosive burst of ash. They didn't stop running until they burst back into the observatory's main hall. The night air felt painfully cold after the heat below. Liora collapsed against a pillar, gasping. Ravel stared at her. Care to explain what just tried to kill us? She wiped ash from her face. I think someone activated that machine recently, someone who knew what it could do. And if the compass led me there now, she swallowed. Someone wants me to know, or they want me dead. Before Ravel could respond, a soft hum rose from her pocket. She pulled out the compass. The needle wasn't pointing anymore. It was spinning, faster and faster, as though caught in a storm. And then it stopped, locking onto a direction she had not seen it choose since the day her father vanished. It pointed toward the wastes. Ravel groaned. You're not seriously thinking about going out there. I have to. Of course you do, because why sleep in a warm bed when you can run into cursed sandstorms and murderous relic hunters? But he didn't walk away. He waited. Liora whispered, You don't have to come. I absolutely do, he said dryly. Who else will make sure you don't walk into a sinkhole or get eaten by a siphon worm? She smiled, despite the fear knotting her chest. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'll probably regret it. They left the observatory behind as dawn smudged the horizon. Brackenvine's towers caught the first light like molten glass. The compass glowed faintly, needle aimed unwaveringly at the horizon. Whatever truth it sought, it lay far beyond the city, and buried under the weight of impossible memory.
The wastes began where the roads ended. Beyond the crumbling markers of civilization stretched dune after dune of iron-colored sand, shaped by winds that carried metallic dust capable of shredding unprotected skin. The first day's travel was uneventful. The second introduced trouble. A low hum vibrated through the ground around midday, soft at first, then sharpening into a predatory whine. Ravel froze. Tell me that's not... It is, Liora said grimly. A siphon worm erupted from the sand behind them, its segmented body glittering like hammered steel, its maw lined with fanged intake vents designed to strip energy from anything it consumed. The beast lunged. Ravel yanked Liora aside just before its jaws slammed shut on the place she'd been standing. Move, he shouted.
They sprinted across the sand, but the worm burrowed under the dunes, resurfacing in a spray of grit ahead of them. Liora stumbled, clutching the compass. The worm hissed, a metallic static that rattled her bones. Ravel grabbed a flare stick from his pack. "Cover your ears!" He cracked it against a rock. A shriek of light exploded outward. The worm reared back, thrashing violently, its sensory plates overwhelmed. The ground churned as it dove deep beneath the dunes, retreating from the unbearable resonance. Liora sagged with relief. "Where did you get that?" "Borrowed, from someone who probably wants it back." Their breaths gradually steadied. Only then did Liora realize the compass was glowing again, so brightly she had to shield her eyes. "What now?" Ravel asked. "It's reacting to something close." She turned slowly, letting the compass guide her gaze. There, beneath a wind-carved arch of sandstone, a half-buried structure jutted from the ground like the rib of a long-dead colossus. Its surface was marked with the same shimmering, living glyphs she had seen beneath the observatory. "Another sundering relic," she whispered. They approached carefully, brushing sand from the angular slab. A triangular aperture opened with a low hiss, revealing a chamber below. Ravel peered in. "Looks dark and ominous and trapped." Liora stepped forward. "Then we'll be careful." "Define careful." "Alive." "That's a very low bar," but he followed. Inside, the chamber walls pulsed with soft light. A circular platform sat in the center, surrounded by etched rings that hummed faintly. As Liora approached, a voice filled the chamber, calm, crystalline, not entirely human. "Temporal signature detected. Child of Therin, you may proceed." Liora's blood ran cold. "It knows who I am." Ravel muttered, "Great. Nice to feel welcome." The platform illuminated beneath her feet. A projection formed in the air, hazy at first, then sharp. Her father. Not as she remembered him in life, but as a recorded echo. His eyes were tired, his voice carried weight. "Liora, if you're seeing this, then the sundering was not the end. It was a beginning. The temporal ash is unstable, alive in ways we did not understand. Someone seeks to rewrite what was erased, and they will use you to do it." She felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. "Use me? Why?" "Because the Ashen Compass responds to lineage, and because you carry the one memory the ash cannot consume." "What memory?" she whispered. The projection leaned forward. "The day I vanished was not disappearance, it was sacrifice. And someone wants to undo it." Liora's knees buckled. Ravel caught her arm. Her father's final words flickered. "Trust no one who seeks the ash, not even those you love." Then the projection dissolved into silence.
The hunters in the dunes. The hum started as a faint tremor beneath their feet, like a heartbeat buried deep in the sand. Then it sharpened, mechanical, rising in pitch, unmistakably coordinated. Ravel tensed. "Those aren't worms." "No," Liora murmured. "They're machines." A fissure split open in the dune above them, spilling sand in a metallic cascade. Out of it emerged 3 tall figures, moving with the precision of pendulums. Their bodies were human-shaped, but constructed of articulated brass conduits.
Their faces were smooth plates, etched with glyphs that pulsed like veins. Ravel swallowed. Clockwork sentinels, pre-sundering guardians. Fantastic. Truly fantastic. Liora pulled him behind a fallen slab. The sentinels scanned the entrance with rotating ocular discs. "Why are they here now?" Ravel whispered. Leora's answer was grim. Because the projection activated a protocol, and because someone doesn't want us to learn more. One sentinel leaned down, pressing a geometric sigil to the opening. The air shimmered, sealing the entrance beneath a translucent barrier. "We're trapped," Ravel muttered. "Not yet." Liora grabbed his wrist and tugged him toward his secondary passage she'd noticed earlier, a narrow slit between two fractured support columns. They squeezed through just as a sentinel stepped into the chamber they'd left. The passage sloped downward, then opened into a cavern of strange hexagonal tiles, each one softly vibrating like plucked strings. Ravel stared at the humming floor. "Please tell me this isn't a resonance grid." "It is." "Please tell me we're not going to walk on it." "We are." Ravel sighed. "Wonderful. If we die, I am haunting you."
They stepped onto the grid carefully. Each tile lit up beneath their feet with a soft chime. Liora kept her eyes on the compass, which pulsed like a heartbeat, guiding her toward the far wall, where an archway of fractured stone loomed. Ravel hopped between tiles with theatrical caution. "Why does it feel like this thing is going to—" A tile beneath him flashed red. "Explode," he finished weakly. But instead of exploding, the tile emitted a rising tone, and a shimmering projection leapt from the grid, forming into a shape. A figure. No. A memory. The projection resolved into a child, wide-eyed, barefoot, laughing. The girl ran in circles before evaporating into a scatter of sparks. Ravel blinked. Was that? A temporal imprint. Moments trapped in the grid. Echoes of people who stepped here long ago. Ravel shivered. "I don't like this place." "You weren't meant to." They continued, stepping cautiously. A chime rang again. Another memory flickered, this one of two people arguing, their voices inaudible, their hands trembling. Then another, and another. The memories grew darker. Fleeing workers, shattered instruments, a scientist clutching a glowing shard before collapsing. Ravel exhaled slowly. The sundering happened here, didn't it? In part. These labs fed the temporal engines when the engines failed. The world split. She nodded. And then the grid ahead of them turned crimson. A memory surged upward, larger, clearer, more forceful than the others. It was a man. Liora froze. Her father's silhouette stood in front of them, arm outstretched as if trying to shield someone, Liora, a younger version of her, before the scene fractured into a storm of ash. The projection dissolved violently. The grid shook. Ravel grabbed her. "We need to move." They sprinted across the remaining tiles and dove through the archway just as the entire grid pulsed with a blinding light. Behind them, the hum intensified and then abruptly cut out. Silence returned. Heavy, faintly acidic. Liora steadied her breath. "We can't stay underground much longer. The sentinels will breach the chamber soon." "Then let's find an exit that doesn't involve exploding floors," Ravel said. Riddle 4. I can bring tears without sorrow, laughter without joy, and memories without a past. What am I? Answer. A dream.
The wind carried a copper smell as day broke over the dunes. Liora and Ravel trudged across the desert, shadows long behind them. The compass tugged at her hand like an impatient child. Ravel kicked a loose stone. So, the Forgotten Meridian. I've always wondered why it's called Forgotten. Is it because everyone who goes near it dies? Mostly, Liora said. Excellent. Love that journey for us. The meridian was no ordinary landmark. It was a scar, an ancient vertical canyon cleaved into the desert during the sundering. Time flowed strangely near it. Clocks ran backward. Shadows detached from objects. People who got too close sometimes came back days older or days younger. The closer they drew to the meridian, the more the air felt charged. Ravel paused. Do you feel that? Static. No, like someone humming in my teeth. That's the temporal resonance. Liora, I would really like less resonance in my bones. You'll get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. She smiled faintly. Then stay close. They crested a dune and froze. Before them stretched a vast chasm, its walls shimmering with impossible light. Jagged cliffs stabbed upward like broken glass. Wisps of ash spiraled along the edges, forming thin, ghost-like figures that vanished as soon as they appeared. Ravel held up the compass. The needle pointed directly into the chasm. Well, Ravel said, guess we're going down. The descent was treacherous. Cracks in the rock widened under their feet. Loose shale slid away into bottomless nothing. Halfway down, the world flickered. Ravel swore. Did you just see that? Yes, Liora said tightly. For a moment, the cliff had appeared younger, smooth, uncracked, before reverting to its broken state. Temporal slippage, she said. Don't look directly at the shifts. It confuses your sense of balance. Very reassuring. Thank you. They moved carefully. Sometimes their shadows appeared delayed, moving half a second after they did. Sometimes they moved too fast. Once, Ravel's shadow lifted its hand as if waving, though Ravel himself did not. He made a strangled noise. Liora! Don't engage with it, she said. Engage? It's trying to unionize without me. But despite his constant commentary, he followed her precisely, step for step, until they reached the canyon floor. And there, the air shimmered with pale gold light. A stone platform stood at the center, etched with glyphs that pulsed like a heartbeat. The coordinates from the ash, Liora whispered. This is the place. Ravel crouched and peered at the platform. Is it supposed to be humming like that? No. Someone activated it recently. Wonderful. Liora stepped onto the platform. The compass flared, and the canyon walls melted into a swirl of ash. The world resolved into a new space, a cavern carved from pure onyx, smooth as water. Floating rings of light drifted on her head like luminous halo fragments. At the center stood a hooded figure. Liora's pulse spiked. Who are you? The figure turned. Ravel sucked in a breath. No, Liora! The man pushed back his hood. Her world narrowed to a single heartbeat. Papa? She whispered. It was her father. Older, weathered, eyes lined with exhaustion, but unmistakably him. Liora, he said softly, I knew you'd follow the compass. Her throat closed. You're alive! In a manner of speaking. What does that mean? Before he could answer, a tremor ran through the chamber. Ravel stepped forward. How are you here? We saw your memory, your death.
Her father's gaze flicked to him briefly. Some sacrifices don't stay sacrificed in a world where time breaks. He stepped toward Liora. She moved toward him instinctively, but Ravel grabbed her arm. "Liora, careful." Her father smiled sadly. "He's right to warn you." She froze. He continued. "The compass brought you because you carry the stable imprint I need. The ash responds to you. It recognizes you as a fixed point." Ravel stiffened. "Fixed point? What does that mean?" Her father's voice softened. "It means she's the only one who cannot be rewritten." "Rewritten by what?" "The ash," he said, gesturing to the swirling particles above them. "It doesn't just store memories. It consumes them, rearranges them, creates new ones. It has learned to mimic time without understanding it." Ravel shook his head. "That's impossible." "It was never meant to be possible, but someone forced it to change." "Who?" He hesitated. Then the chamber shuddered violently. The floating rings cracked. A voice, cold, echoing, filled the air. "Do not interfere, Liora Therin." Her father's face twisted with fear. "They've arrived." "Who?" Liora demanded. He reached for her hand. She reached back, but the air split open between them with a vertical seam of white fire. Out stepped a figure made entirely of ash, humanoid, faceless, its body flowing like liquid smoke. Her father whispered the ash mask. "It found us." Ravel backed up. "Not to interrupt, but that thing looks deeply unfriendly." The ash mask raised a hand. The cavern trembled. Liora felt her mind stretch, her memories flickering like pages caught in wind. Her father shouted, "Liora, do not let it touch you." The ash mask advanced. Liora held the compass tight, and the needle spun wildly until it locked on the ash mask itself. She understood instantly. "Papa," she whispered, "it's not pointing to a place anymore." Her father's eyes widened. "It's pointing to him."